Okay, Rebecca, will you just start with me, please?
Good? All right, we're gonna go ahead and start the Monday, August 26th budget meeting. Roll call.
Kirby Moyna.
Tom Marswood.
Ben Keel.
Michelle Adam.
Lloyd Johnson.
All right.
I had nobody left.
Wendy.
Okay, so this is pretty similar to all the other years. First in your packet is the revenue budget worksheet. What we did was, now remember this is a preliminary budget, preliminary levy. So all we need to do is the accounts or the funds that actually are levied for. All the expenditure, all the enterprise funds and everything else will be done later on. So you can prove the final budget by December 31st. This is a preliminary that has to be in by September 30th. So it includes the general fund, park and rec, EDA, community center, couple of our debt services, yep.
What's with the $70,000 increase in the revenue? Is that just the, it's laid out in there later where it says the actually lowering the, right, 1% lower?
1.909.
Is that part of that?
So you mean, so why,
Well, there's the revenue, it says on the revenue budget worksheet right on the top, the general fund's $70,000 more. I just wanted to know why.
I guess I'm not knowing. Oh, right there?
Yep.
Oh, it's, I don't know, it's kind
It
of.
says the current ad valorem taxes.
Yeah, so we're levying 70,000 more than we did last year.
Is that just for all the improvements we're gonna do and everything? Okay. And then what's the local government aid? I just didn't know.
That is money that comes from the government.
Okay.
So, and we dispersed it, so if you look at the very bottom of this page, 618,500 is what we get from them this year. And we dispersed it this way, through some to the general fund, some to parks, that for the regional park, some to capital improvement to start getting that fund built up. So the first 3 or 4 pages is the revenue. And then after that, it goes into the expenditure. So basically what we do is we sit down and we go through council. We have elections that's coming up this year. Treasurer is actually this office. And then we have the public works, all the different departments in the general fund, goes into the parks. So we sit down and decide how much money we think we're going to need to run the city for the year.
Yep.
And then once we do that, then we go back to the revenue and say, okay, where are we going to get the money from? And in the past, I think the last couple of years, we've been increasing it by about 100,000. This year, it's increased, I think it's 74,000. I didn't bring my folder in here, but I think it's
73,305.
yeah, 73,305. So the increase this year is less than last year. Some of it's due to our LGA being higher this year. We shifted some of the things around. Like I said, we'll put, if you look on this page, which I think is the last page in your packet, we would be putting $325,000 or $355,000 in capital improvement. That will be to start building up our capital improvement fund for all the projects that we need to get done in town. We have, is it Crystal Lane that is basically falling apart?
Yeah.
So once we get Emerson done this summer, next summer we have to look at redoing Crystal Lane.
First Avenue.
And First Street, and Mindy Lane, you know, they're all 20 years old now, so they're all starting to show their wear. So by putting money away each year, we're hoping to be able to just take care of these projects, each year. The parks, the $246,975 under the budget requirement, 100,000 of that we'll take out of the LGA and put into the regional park to get going on the regional park. So we need 146,975 basically to run the rest of the park system for all of upkeep of the parks and the payroll and stuff.
Did we, excuse me, Wendy, but when you first started that regional park, didn't we set a certain amount that we wouldn't go over that much?
Mark Kratzer made a motion to do 75,000 a year. But we thought, well, we'll bring 100,000 and see what you guys think, because if we don't start putting money in there, we're not gonna get anywhere with it. You know, even at 75,000 a year, it's gonna take,
Yeah, it will be 20 years before you get it done.
yeah. And
Well, if you remember right, you identified in the joint park and rec meeting and the city council meeting that that was one of your priorities. And our thinking was is that we get a shelter built out there and we rent that out and we can generate revenue off of that shelter.
so, yeah, so we thought, you know,
You know, not to comment here Kirby, but it'd be a good experience for you to sit through. You know, I sat through the budget meeting for what, 4.5 hours or whatever. It was very interesting to see how all
Interesting,
all
is
the
it?
numbers come in. Seriously, it's a good experience for me.
so I don't know if you guys had a chance to go through here, look if there's any things you have questions on. I mean, I'm certainly, if there's anything, there's not a whole lot of difference between them. Like I said, we increased it by 73,000, but if you look at the capital improvement, we increased that by quite a bit.
5.9%.
The debt service, that is County Road 12 and the Clementa Avenue, those are our two debt services that we required. I did lower those by 50,000 and shifted the money around. We don't want to get rid of it completely because when we redo downtown, we're going to need to have that debt service again. So we pretty much put it over into capital improvement for now so that we have money in the capital improvement and then we can slide it back to debt service when we need to. Because we refunded those bonds years ago, there was a couple of years in there where our principal payments were way lower, so it would be like 190,000 one year, and the next year was down to 80,000, and then it'll go back up again. So by keeping that at 200,000 for County Road 12 and 175,000 for Clementa, it built up enough money in there now to start lowering that and start putting it in our capital improvement until we need to shift it back into debt service again. But you don't want to lower the levy and then have to try to bring it all back up again. If you just put it into your capital improvement for now, it'll start, help build that up to start doing all these projects and then hopefully have some money in there so that we can get them done.
And Kirby, I don't know if you're aware of this, but your preliminary levy that we're looking at right now to get approved, certified, you can't go up after you certify that. You can go down, but you can't go up.
Then we can go up as if you petition to the state and you have to have a really good reason, like our road fell apart at the last minute, now we have to fix it, that type of thing. But otherwise you can't go up without.
I have one question there under treasure there too. It says full-time employees. Last year, well, of course, that isn't the full amount, but it's 18,000 so far, but yet next year we want to increase that to 55,000.
We put that in there, so last year we budgeted 45,000, this year we're budgeting 55,000 because they talked about having our part-time person go to full-time. So that would include our part-time person going full-time.
But we necessarily wouldn't have to do that.
I was just directed by the personnel committee that was talked about by staff, by the city administrator, or the city clerk, and so.
But then, that's an added expense for the taxpayers.
Well, it's kind of a toss-up, so if you want to get you're talking about getting all these code enforcement things done, you gotta have somebody to do the work.
She's here,
Well, if you remember, Deb, that was primarily your main reason why we hired you.
Lloyd, there are so many other jobs to do under what I'm doing right now that I can hardly keep up with. I've been focusing on code enforcement and I haven't been able to get anything else done.
Well,
We used to have 4 people in the office at one time.
Yeah.
4 full-time employees, and one of them did nothing but code enforcement and planning and zoning.
If we
That's
wanna
all
get-
she did.
If we want to get things done, we
Yep.
have to have the people to get
Yep.
it done.
Well, and quite frankly, your former city clerk treasurer that you had here, that you got, that left before I did, he contacted me because he was discussing with you to hire me to help with code enforcement because he couldn't keep up with it. And Heidi is here from 9 to 2 every day, and she is going nonstop. And I said today to Wendy, I can't even train her on other things to do because this is taking up so much of her time. There's other things I need help with like getting a packet ready or getting recordings ready or just little things like that. And I can't even train her because she's here and then she's gone every day.
Yeah, we should hire another part-time person.
Well, then you're still gonna pay the same
It's
thing.
still the same amount of money per.
Yes.
If you hire 2 part-time, you're still gonna be paying the same thing as if you just hire a
Well, we
full-time.
save on benefits and
Benefits.
stuff.
She's not taking insurance.
So.
She's got insurance through her spouse. So I didn't even put that in there.
At the streetscape meeting last week, they talked about a stop sign, stoplight crosswalk. Where would we put something like that?
They talked about a what?
You know, in Maple Plain, there's the crosswalk that goes from over by where the library and the bar are. That's what we were talking about doing over here by where the,
Mhm.
yes, putting an overhead, like actual like stoplight kind of thing out there instead of what we have now.
We had finished the budget by that
I was
time.
gonna say, we were already done by
Right.
then, so I
Yep.
don't know. We did budget for it.
Right, so I mean,
I can change this, I mean, seriously, this can go up a little bit, and you can always bring it back down, so
right,
if you're serious about that and you think, I mean, I can say, I mean, we can go up 100 to 100,000 even like we did other years, and we can put it in like into public works or probably in capital improvement, and earmark it for that. I don't know how much they are, I have no idea, those overheads.
expensive.
I did have somebody call me and ask me if we could look into changing the color of those lights. Because when they're flashing orange and you're driving into the sun, you cannot see them. And Maple Plain has the red overhead, so they were wondering if ours could be red, that you could see them even.
That's
So
That's in the streets.
I don't know if you get a chance to talk to Sean or somebody.
Yeah, and we were kind of just talking about it just being like basically like a stoplight there kind of deal. If somebody's crossing it, you know, the red to actually stop.
Have you ever
Like
seen
when
that
they-
one in Maple Plain Hill? Yeah, if you push the button, then the red light comes on and it's expensive.
We need
And
to
what's
check.
the
I'm gonna be
MinDOT
honestly
rules?
with you, I highly doubt that MinDOT will let you do it.
I was just gonna say, what's MinDOT's rules on that?
Because
probably?
we have a controlled stop 1 block over. So we had to fight tooth and nail just to get the flashing light with the bump
Right.
outs.
Right,
And I mean tooth and nail.
yeah, that was a
they-
big,
Yes, they did allow us to put that flashing one in, but even when they were here and we discussed, because we talked to them when they came with the Highway 12, you know, projects to be done in 2022,
mhm,
and we talked to them about a crossing down there and how can we get this fixed because it's so bad, and they said you have a controlled intersection 1 block away. So I highly doubt they'll let you do it.
Would they let us change the color of the lights? at
Well,
least?
that's what we're gonna check, see if we can change the color of the light, or even if they have to be orange, if we put in, or yellow, whatever you call them, if we put in LEDs, will they show up better? I don't know, but we're gonna have something to look into.
With the amount of traffic that's going up and down 12 now, I mean, you watch people blow through that now when they're flashing and people are standing in the crosswalk slash halfway across the street. People are still just
Yeah.
driving through.
But I
Where's
know,
our deputy sheriff when we need him?
That's why we should need our own cops.
okay, I can tell you this.
I mean, a 3 to
What was
5
the-
million.
What was the study, Michelle? Remember when we did the study?
mhm.
It's expensive to start up, I know.
3 to 5 million typically. It's probably, that was a long time ago when I checked into that. It's probably more now.
So I don't know if you want to have it put in there. I highly doubt that
I doubt
MinDOT
it would
will do
happen.
it. I really don't know that.
Well, we won't know though until we try.
Correct. But, like I said, when we met with MinDOT, was it 2 months ago maybe, or a month ago, when they were out here and showed us the plan for the project and all the different stuff, and we talked about that intersection, and their comment was, you have a controlled intersection 1 block away.
So take the crosswalk out and move it up to the,
If there already is a crosswalk up here,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So they talked
I
about
wish they
doing,
should have a
I wish we could
crosswalk
have that for
now
both of
out by Dollar General too. There's a lot of people.
they talked about redoing the bump outs out here maybe and expanding them a little bit, didn't they say, to see if that would slow people down a little bit or
But
something?
she said then that they couldn't do that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that was one thing they had thought about maybe trying to do, but
basically, she said we were lucky we got those.
yeah.
And we didn't
Yeah,
do that.
really and truly, because I'm surprised that they allowed that, because they like to widen their roads, not narrow.
They left us put them in to slow them down because that was with Casey's was there. Mobile home park, the kids come across there to get to the school. So they left us put them in because that was a primary school crossing, basically. But so I don't know if you have any other, I mean, if you have any questions, I don't want to go through this one by one, so if you've had a chance to look at it.
Under the Park and Rec portion of it, we had set aside back with Sean, for the concessions at Carver, the 50,000. Where is that on here? I see there's zeros.
It would come out of capital improvement.
Is that where it's coming?
It would come out of capital improvement, yeah. We tried to start, instead of putting everything in, like in the Park and Rec fund, we would put it all into the capital improvement fund, and that's where, that way, when the auditors come, they can capitalize it all, because it's easier to do it that way.
Okay.
Well, it's kept track of separately then, when it's in the general fund. When all that money at the end, if it's not used, it just goes into your reserve, basically. If you have it in the capital, it's designated for parks and it stays in
Yeah,
parks.
or, well, even just the capital itself, it stays in the capital fund, so.
Okay. And then I know it's minimal, but we just approved to add 3 members to the EDA, so we have to put that in somewhere too. I know, I mean, it's only $25 a month, but, or
We
not
did.
even a month.
We
but-
did,
You did?
we did that out.
Okay.
Initially,
Okay.
it'll probably be once a month.
To get it
Michelle,
going, up
until
and
we get
going.
yeah.
Yep, okay,
And we see under transfers where it says 5,200 in EDA,
yep,
that is actually a transfer into the general fund for wages. Because that's 2 separate checkbooks, so the EDA has its own checking account,
Yeah.
and the general, and then the city has its account. So we generally do a transfer from one to the other
okay.
to get it out of there, so the 5,200 used to be like Barb's wages, and then now it would be Deb's wages, but we could also use that for the 3 members too.
Yeah, we did account for that one.
Yep.
Okay,
And we would just pay them like out of our general fund and then put this in there to offset it.
So now will we have an outside, on that EDA now, will we have an outside expense? Like, we used to have that other person. Joanne Faust, we paid her like $40,000 a year.
That was through planning and zoning and EDA, we paid her. If you look under EDA, it says consultant fees. We budgeted 9,200 for Shannon.
for Shannon.
And part of the reason why we did that is because there's talk of this new housing development about going TIF, so he would be used for that.
No, 9,200 is better than 30,000 we used to show.
None of us really understand TIF totally, so we really need Shannon's help there.
Unless you-
Well, we don't want to jump into TIF too heavy anyway, because that's a bad thing.
It has a time and a place.
It can be good if it's regulated, but a lot of cities get in trouble with too much TIF. Then you don't get any taxes.
We don't have any
Plus-
TIF districts right now.
Plus, the school gets cheated out of the taxes too.
Well, nothing the EDA does, it's done without going through council, so.
Yeah.
Website maintenance? What exactly? Is that
So,
back when we redid it and then
Yep.
make upkeep of it?
yeah, so when we first started, or I should say Maggie had switched it over to GovOffice.
Yep.
There was I think she had a 3-year contract for $3,370 a year or something. So we were budgeting $3,500 every year to cover anything that we needed to have done. So we dropped it down to $3,000 now. I think we're done paying them. But if we want to do any kind of updates or anything to it, so we put $3,000 in there just to make sure we have some money if we need to.
Because we need to do something with that.
Yeah, I suggest a high school kid.
And maybe even we could get a high school kid like next summer to come in, even if we stay with GovOffice, but he revamps the whole thing. Because I think it's an easy program actually to go in and work with. It's just, Maggie set it up and it's set up kind of strange because to find the city code, you go to planning and zoning, which I don't know why city code is under planning and zoning. It has nothing to do with it. So it just needs to be redone really, but,
And updated.
yeah.
Some of the information there is not correct.
And other cities do that, they hire high school or college kids to come in and do that kind of stuff because they want to try
For
to
their
get them
training.
interested in
Mhm.
government.
So if we,
So
you know,
it helps them get interested.
brought him in over the
government.
summer for a month or something and had him work on it for a couple months and had him work on it.
Yeah.
So we put 3,000 in there for that.
Is it even heard? Recreational programs, we still have the money in there for Spark, I see, right?
I do because we haven't heard anything,
We're not
so,
sure.
yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a bill this year because they didn't do
We
one,
didn't
but
do
if they get enough interest, they may come back to doing it.
What was that? That was like two,
Almost 3,000.
3,000 something?
And then open gym is another close to 2 something.
Those planner fees, is that for miles?
Mhm. That's all I had. I have no more questions.
Any questions, Lloyd?
No, it's just that, you know, in the past, we've had consultants just about do everything, and we used to pay out a hell of a lot of money for consultants, and I don't want to get into that situation again.
Well, we do have a lot of projects coming up that are gonna need the advice of the
And if you wanted to
consultant, so
fix this code stuff, you're gonna have to pay a consultant because it all has to be
that's gonna
done
come from
legally.
Miles.
So you have to pay Lyle, and actually, one thing you should probably look at or think about too, and maybe for 2021, is just to look at putting in the budget to recodify our city code. It has been a number of years since that's been done, and it's expensive, but you should do it every so many years, and it's been,
Long
I
time.
bet you it's been 15 years since it's been recodified. So what happens is, you know, new ordinances get done and get added, and then they don't, sometimes they'll get missed because they don't get added in the right spot, and so if you get it all recodified,
Or they conflict with something else.
yes.
Yeah,
because yep,
Amy was real frustrated with that
Yes.
because it was repeatedly, and then we thought the ones that before my time were all on the website anyway, so people put, and they're not, so.
no, they weren't getting put out there, Dale, Maggie and Dale weren't putting them out on the website.
There's
They
some
weren't
that you
giving
still
them
can't
suggestions.
find probably,
Yeah.
so.
When, if we can get Heidi caught up on stuff, there was files in Deb's office folders that Dale was just putting in folders, and we always had ordinances and resolutions set up in our fireproof cabinet so that if something happened, they would be there. So we're gonna need Heidi to go through and see if she could get stuff organized. If
Sounds
we
like
have
a
time.
process.
Yeah,
It's a huge process. That's what I was talking about, if
Right.
we had more hours with her.
so I kind of went through and guessed on some things like, I looked at what our tax capacity's been increasing, how it's been increasing over the year. So I increased it like by 8%, which is kind of a common number, and calculated it out, and our actual tax rate itself will go down based on this current one here, on the current preliminary. Our tax rate will decrease, so depending on how much your house value actually increases will determine if you have any kind of a increase in your taxes. I did go through some, I just kind of pulled a couple out with house values as low as 90,000 something and some as high as almost 400,000. And I think based on, even if the house value increased was like 8%, I think it's $2.22 a month or something is the increase. So it's pretty minimal, so. So I don't know if you got any other questions. If not, we will present this at the council meeting with these numbers because it has to be in on September 30th.
What are we gonna request, 8%?
No, this right here.
5.9.
It's, yeah, it's a 5.9% increase.
5.9.
Yep.
All right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
I
As you all have your stuff put away already.
just had to do it at once.
My questions were answered.
Thanks, buddy.